everyone, thanks so much for joining me. My name is Susan Timchak and I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And I'd like to welcome you here tonight. Tonight what I thought I would talk about is re-inking our Stampin' Up! Ink pads. Now, a lot of other companies, when you go to those big box stores, you can purchase an ink pad. And unfortunately, when it's about 3 o'clock in the morning, like some of us when we can't sleep, you know who you are. Me, I'm one of them. We get up and we want to stamp and create. Well, the worst thing that can happen is when you go to stamp an image and it's lighter than the color should be. So what happens then is you end up having to throw that ink pad away and then go and purchase a whole new one. Well, with Stampin' Up! Ink pads, you will never have to do that again. The only way you'll have to throw away your ink pad is if you just accidentally throw it away. Because Stampin' Up! Provides us with these little bottles, and these are called re-inkers, or re-ink bottles, or whatever you want to refer to them as. I refer to them as re-inkers, and I'm looking at this one. Yep, this still has some in there. So we have a few different types of ink pads, and you basically ink them up pretty much the same way. So what I thought I would do tonight is share with you how to do that. Sometimes we just take things for granted. We just assume that everybody knows how to do these kind of things, where, you know, maybe you just need a little direction. So let's look at the ink pads we have here first. We have Versamark, which is a watermark stamp pad. It's also a pad you can use for embossing, as it is an ink that stays wet long enough and you can emboss with it. If you don't emboss with it, when you stamp with it and it dries, it just creates a darker image. So it's great to do a tone-on-tone image to any of our cardstocks. We also have an ink called Memento. This is a Tuxedo black, and this is a fade-resistant dye ink, and it is great to use if you have alcohol markers, excuse me, such as our Stampin' blends. It works great with that, and it's just a basic black ink pad, and I'm going to show you what they all look like in a second here. Then we have our classic Stampin' pad, which this also is water-based dye ink, and you can also use this to emboss with if you're quick. But there's another way you can do it with a combination of the Versamark and the classic ink pad, how you can emboss with that as well. And that'll have to be a whole other video. If you're interested in finding out how to do that, leave a comment down below. Be sure to mention that you want to learn how to do that. And then we also have a Whisper White craft Stampin' pads. And if you've been with Stampin' Up! For any amount of time, years ago we used to have craft stamping ink pads, and we had classic stamping ink pads. Well, right now we have a Whisper White. White is kind of hard to just have a standard classic ink pad, but the Whisper White is a pigment ink, which is also you can use for embossing with an embossing powder. You wouldn't have to use the Versamark way if you wanted to get a color out of it. So they're all different types of ink pads, different types of textures. So first off, let's take a look at the Memento ink pad. Now when you open this up, this is a raised, I'm not sure if you can see that, it has a raised bed on it, and it's a hard surface on there. So we're going to use our Memento Tuxedo Black re-inker bottle, and to re-ink this, you just basically squeeze that on. And can you see how that, maybe you can't, can you see how that's absorbing in? Let me try this again, hold it here at an angle to kind of show you. See already I'm just going to kind of use the tip to kind of help that in, but just kind of want to squeeze a little on there. Not too much, just enough. If you see that you squeeze, let me try. If you squeeze it like this and you see how that's still on top, it's taking a long time to absorb, you can pretty much guarantee that that's nicely inked up. And what I'd also recommend after re-inking any of your ink pads is not to use them right away. You know, go ahead and re-ink them and then kind of put them aside and go back to them later. Okay, so now let's look at the Versamark Watermark stamp pad. And there's full explanation on the back as to how to use it. It's just, it's a different type of pad. Now this is supposed to be actually this white color, but this is very well loved. And as you can see, so now this has a different, this is a different type ink pad. This is very foamy. It's a lot like our basic classic ink pads. So this has a Versamark refill as well. And for this, you're going to basically squeeze it on, and you're actually using that tip to kind of, I'm squeezing as I'm going back and forth to kind of help that absorb into the ink pad. You can also use your bone folder to help with that, and I'm going to show you how to do that when I get to my classic ink pad. So you're just basically going to squeeze that all over your ink pad, and then stop squeezing, help the tip to absorb that into. And this one has a little bit of an odor. Not a bad odor. It just has, not like a glue odor, but to me, I like it, but I'm a little odd at times too. So again, you're going to let that set aside, put the lid on it, and put that aside, and before you're going to use it, allow that to dry. Okay, so next, let's look at the Craft Stampin' Pad, and this is Whisper White. And again, this is a pigment ink pad, and this again is a foamy soft texture, a lot like the Versamark. So here we have our Craft Stampin' ink, and this one isn't as soft as the Versamark, and I believe when you get it, yeah, this is a brand new one, it doesn't come inked. I believe right now how they sell it is, I think it comes together. You get the bottle with it, and you ink it up. So this is like a virgin stamp pad that I'm applying this to. And it's a lot, I'm really squeezing this hard because this is a lot thicker ink than it would be with our classic ink pad. So sometimes I just kind of like to do this. And let me show you an easier way to do it. So squeeze that ink on there. I'm going to take my bone folder, and I'm just going to kind of go along the top. And this is the way that we're going to go. Oop, let me lock that. This is the way we're going to also ink up our classic ink pad. You can use the back of a plastic spoon or a plastic, knife or something and dispose of that if you want, or just keep that for re-inking. I use my bone folder because it's here in my stamp studio and it's, available. No sense in running downstairs to go and get something else. And then all you have to do is maybe take a baby wipe. I'm going to go ahead and use my absorber cloth, and I'm just going to clean that off, just like that. And again, like the other ones, set that aside to dry. Okay, and lastly, let me put the lid on this. Lastly, we have our classic Stampin' Pad, and this is Rich Razzleberry. And this one, if you were watching my video before with my paper pumpkin, I was creating paper pumpkin because this month in January 2018, our Stampin' Spot is Rich Razzleberry. And this same ink can be used on your Stampin' Spots as well. Stampin' Spots have a linen type ink, have a linen type pad inside. So it's a lot different than any of these even. It's more like the Memento ink pad. And you can use the same inker on your Stampin' Spot. You can also purchase Stampin' Spots that have no color in them, and you could even do a combination of colors on there. If you wanted to do like a stripe, you can use a couple of different colors on your plain Stampin' Spot that we sell in the catalog. So I was doing my paper pumpkin, that's how I noticed my ink pad's getting a little dry. And these are foam pads. Can you see how this is like smushing? These are foam pads, so they will need to be inked up, re-inked up a lot more than the linen type pads. Can you see how that's absorbing in? A lot of times when you put this on here, I'm just using the tip to kind of help it. It'll just lay on top, and I think I'm going to be having to order another one of these bottles. But if you find some of the ink goes on top, Squeeze that in, and again, like you're icing a cake. Okay, you're just going to spread that along just like that. And that is, you can really see that this one is really, really needing to be re-inked. And I'm going to wipe this off of my bone folder. Just like that. And let me see what little bit more I can get out of this. Not too much because it's kind of spittering and spattering. So I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. And for me to remind myself that I need to order another one of these, I'm just going to put this right here on my little ot light to make sure to order it. So there you have it. The re-inkers can also be used in a lot of fun techniques. So that could be a whole other line of videos. So if you're interested in learning what other techniques can you do with the re-inkers, what else can you create with the Stampin' spots, or any other questions you have regarding any of our products, be sure to let me know. There was one more thing I wanted to share with you, and what was that? I just had a mental block because I was just thinking I want to make sure I tell them that. You know how that happens. Oh, this is it. Whenever you purchase an ink pad, the best thing you can do for yourself is go ahead and get the refill along with it. Then you're already set. So when it comes that 3 a.m. when you can't sleep and your ink pad runs dry, you won't have to worry about, oh, I got to call Stampin' Sue Creates to order my re-inker. And then also, a lot of times Stampin' Up! Goes and retires colors, like our ink colors. And then it's a rush when the ink color is going to be retired because everybody's rushing to get the re-inkers, and a lot of times they're sold out. So if you order an ink pad, whether it be our classic, our Memento, our craft, or our Versamark, be sure to always reorder yourself the refill for that. So I hope that helps you out with some of the questions you may have regarding how to re-ink the Stampin' Up! Ink pads. And if you have any other questions, or you need some help in something else, or you'd like to see a video on something, be sure to leave it down below in the comments, or shoot me an email at stampinsuecreates@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you back here real soon. Good night for now.